So when you are saying you cannot pay, people like the Edo State governor that said he was going to pay 70,000, doesn't he have challenges? But he prioritized the interests of the workers. And for the federal government, it's mixed messaging. When they say the extreme socioeconomic consequences and all of that, I look at them. Did they also extract socioeconomic consequences when they went to spend billions of naira building a new home for the vice president? 21 billion.
So, my people, as the negotiation concerning the minimum wage is still going on between the federal government and the labor union, which federal government have placed like 62,000 for minimum wage, which a labor union said no. Despite that, like some of the state governors have come out to say that even the 60 or 62,000 that they can't pay, they cannot be able to pay. My people, just like 10 states in Nigeria that can be able to pay this 62,000, which labor union have not agreed though, because the negotiation is still going on. This to show you that something is really, really wrong somewhere when it comes to Nigeria. This is the same government that are sponsoring private business like Hajj and even building new house for vice president, which he does not even need, my people. Why is Nigeria government doing this to Nigerians? Look at how much they are paying for senators. Look at how much they are paying for people that are not even doing anything for Nigeria. But when it is time for them to pay for the workers, they say they don't have money. But at the end of the day, when their tenure expired, when they are out, like when they are no longer governors, you see EFCC pushing them here and there, telling us how many billions they looted. But right now they are complaining they don't have money. My people, like something needs to be done because this is really, really getting out of hand. Let me allow you guys so they can watch this video in full and hear what Rufai and Dr. Bat as well as Ayo said concerning this matter.
Unfortunately, no consensus yet with regards to the new national minimum wage. And here we see the federal government, Labour, state governors at loggerheads. Your take on this story?
So a couple of things I'd like to clear out of the way. And this is for the state governors. Please. It's not the time to come and talk about federalism now. Minimum wage is domiciled with the federal government. If they decide, you pay. Because I get that argument. It's now time when it's convenient for you to make the argument of federalism. No. How about you state governors being prudent in your resource? These were the same state governors that when President Buhari just came in, most of them had not paid salaries. He gave them loans in advance to even pay the salaries. A lot of them diverted it for personal reasons. And look at all the shameless, very shameless political class, I keep saying, that always do things in their own interest against the people. Look at the state governors. Most of them end up in EFCC after office. Some of them, I should say. So when you are saying you cannot pay, people like the Edo State governor that said he was going to pay 70,000, doesn't he have challenges? But he prioritized the interests of the workers. And for the federal government, it's mixed messaging. When they say the extreme socioeconomic consequences and all of that, I look at them. Did they also extract socioeconomic consequences when they went to spend billions of naira building a new home for the vice president? 21 billion. So wasn't the vice president living in a home before now? So that was the priority, building a home for the vice president at the expense of... Were there no consequences when they increased the allocation to the National Assembly? I have always advocated, if the National Assembly lawmakers truly love this country, out of the 344 billion they're taking, they should remove 150 billion there and reinvest it into the economy if they truly love the country. Those that I feel for in all of this are the organized private sector, which the policies of this same government make it difficult for them to pay. So in all of this, the only people I feel for is the organized private sector. But the government and the state governments, no, I'm not going to exonerate them. Because you've made life difficult for the organized private sector. This country is bereft with a lot of multiple taxation in the first place. The taxation money you are collecting from them, we're not even seeing it. Yet you tax them so much. Corporate income tax all-time high. Thanks to Taiwo Idele that is now saying we need to rejig the tax atmosphere in this country. And other things, no power and the likes. I only feel for the private sector. But labor too also needs to be respected. And that 62,000 naira, with due respect, is not going to work. So if they are going to go back to the table, let them go back to the table. Like they were listening to Dr. Abati the other day when he said over 60,000 naira. Doctor, anyway, you worked in government, so you know government so well. The next thing, they just humored you a bit. They put urgent 2K on top of the 60,000 naira. And they came up with a minimum wage. It's not practical. It's not realistic. It's not realistic. At a time where you have over 33% inflation, at a time where you have increase in cost of living. As of today, tomato is at an all-time high. People cannot even make stew again. Your rich tomato stew, that was the hallmark of every Nigerian rice meal. In fact, we love our stew so much that people say we have trust issues. We even put stew on top of jollof rice. We can't buy the rich tomato stew again because tomatoes is at an all-time high. And you want 62,000 when the governors are feeding fat. Please, for the love of mercy, let's go back to the table and have this conversation again.
All right, Dr. Abati.
Okay, I think the first point to stress in the light of the comment by the Minister of National Budget and Economic Planning is that, look, this is called a negotiation, collective bargaining, a tripartite committee. I think that the federal government of Nigeria should win itself of the illusion that it can dictate and that its dictation must hold. Because that would amount to tyranny. It would be against the principle of collective bargaining. Because the federal government of Nigeria has now put itself in a position where it's saying, this is how far we can go. Take it or leave it. Now that arrogance is not likely to help. Why would it not help? We have to set this against the background of the fact that organized labor had said they were giving a 1 week respite, a relaxation of 1 week for the federal government to consider their climb down to 250,000 from 615,000, 497,000, 494,000, and to see how a middle ground can be forged. And Labour has also said 62,000 naira before and after, will be unacceptable to organized labor. Now, 62,000 naira does not look like government is meeting labor any halfway. However, Minister Bagudu says they are dealing with data, economic realities, and that's how far the federal government of Nigeria can go. Bukaji, who is the chairman of the tripartite committee, also echoed the same sentiments as the minister. But where does the risk lie? In two different ways. One, government has said, if labor forces the matter, about 40% of persons within the public sector will have to go home. Because out of all the states, from their own calculations and description of economic realities, only 10 states can even pay the 62,000 naira. Ogun, Bayelsa, Rivers, Lagos, Kano, Kaduna, just about 10 states. Cross River is also on that list that can pay the proposed 62,000 naira. That other states will have to go and borrow and lead people into further penury. But Labour is not listening to that. Labour says, look, you guys get more money. The wage bill, the FAC allocation for state governments, used to be 700 billion naira. Now it has gone up to 1.2 trillion naira. Now, instead of using that money to focus on what is important, governors have increased their security allocations. The life of the people in government has become more ostentatious. The convoys have been expanded. Senators are enjoying better privileges and enhanced privileges. And that all of this, should be provided for the working populace and also the pensioners who nobody even never thinks about. So that's another leg of the invitation, of the conversation. In fact, organized labor over the weekend was saying that governors who think that they cannot pay should resign. Since they say there's no money, okay, resign. Excuse me. You know, that's the argument. You go and resign if you think you cannot pay at a time when you are getting more VAC allocation. At a time when the federal government has said money saved from fuel subsidy is going to the states. So who are the people benefiting from the hardship that is imposed on the people? And I think that it looks like a logical argument. However, in the midst of all of this, I think that the federal government should not get tired of dialogue, of negotiation, because they are dealing with an organized labor now that is living up to the principle of a luta continua. The other time, when they went on strike for about 2 days, I think the calculation in one newspaper was that Nigeria lost 11 trillion naira. Now imagine if they say the relaxation that they announced, the other week has now ended after 1 week, and that they are going back on strike. If we lost 11 trillion in 2 days, imagine what we will lose. So the country will just go into further hardship. I don't think that the Tinubu administration should see this as a blackmail. The government, both at the national and the subnational level, will just have to cut fat. They will just have to plug the leakages. They will just have to make the same sacrifice that they are asking we, the suffering people of Nigeria, where I speak for myself. I don't know whether you are suffering or whether Rufai is suffering. But we, the suffering people of Nigeria, are saying sacrifice should begin with government officials. After all, they say, what was it, the slogan the other day? Nigeria begins with you. You know that was
change begins with
change begins with you. So let us see the people in government changing their attitude, changing the signals that they give to the people, changing their conspicuous consumption to the frugality, the austerity, the prudence that they recommend to these suffering, arise, O compatriots who have now been forced to keep saying, Nigeria we hail thee. The same Nigeria that the people are saying is not serving their purpose as they expect, and they are jackpadaing, in a season of so-called renewed hope.
All right, so this morning, let me face the state governors, because we have had this conversation, and it's quite interesting that organized labor have consistently been reasonable on the negotiation table with regards to dropping from 615,000 naira to 497, then 494, and now at 250,000 naira. While the federal government or this committee has just moved in baby steps only to 62,000 naira. Rufai, do you remember when the 60,000 naira, the president had mentioned that he was going to increase, that they were going to pay over 60. You had said, well, over 60 could mean anything, and you were spot on. To be honest, I was taken aback to see 62,000 naira following the fact that the assurances seemed as if they were going to go back and bring something really worth negotiating about. Now, with regards to the state governors, they're even saying with this 62,000 naira, if they agree on this, for at least 40% of workers will be retrenched. Now, out of the 36 states in Nigeria, plus the FCT, maybe let's say 37, only 10 can afford to pay their workers 62,000 naira. I hope that sinks in, because it is situations like this that bring up just how not viable many of our states in Nigeria are. And then, like Dr. Bati mentioned, so why do we have states and governors who are chief executives of the state who cannot pay 62,000 naira? How many workers do the state governors employ in the first instance? How much is their wage bill that they cannot afford to pay this amount, and are saying that if this goes through, then they might be forced to retrench up to 40% of their workforce. In fact, it is stated that some state governors are unable to pay the 30,000 naira currently. This is a situation of things on our hands. So the 10 states, Lagos, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross Rivers, Ogun, Kano, and Kaduna. I'm stating these states because I want you to know that if your state is missing on this list, your governor has stated, according to the reports from that meeting, that he cannot pay his staff members 62,000 naira. Now, on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, you would see how the ministry demonstrates or advertises each state in Nigeria and its natural resources. And I'm saying this because it's not a lack of resources that are available for the governors to creatively think of how to generate revenue. It is the lack of creative thinking, the lack of will to do, and the sheer lack of managerial skills by these governors. I know that during election period, campaign seasons, they come up with promises upon promises. We hold them to question as to the plans for their state. How do you hope to show up the IGR? I think we must have asked every single governor who sat, for an interview here on the morning show, and they would come up with all these grand ideas as to how they're going to show up revenue, they're going to do X, they're going to do Y, they're going to, look after the people. And then when it comes to the act of governance, they come up and tell you, their citizens or their people, that they cannot afford to pay you 62,000 naira. Very often we look at the federal, we look at the president, we're talking about, I'm just evaluating the style and the way that he's governing. But we should also put our attention to the subnationals, because when it comes to it, look at the people holding you back. I just want you to see the names and the states, because this is a big issue. Why do we have states that are not viable? Why do we have states that cannot meet the needs of paying the few workers that they have in their employ? This begs to question, so that when we talk about matters like this, even though we're saying 62,000 naira is nowhere near enough in terms of when we talk about negotiation and meeting the needs of the Nigerian workers. I understand the minister's point in terms of all the indices that they used to arrive at the figure, but it doesn't make sense to the Nigerian worker, because that's already been established. We don't see this play out. How do you then justify that in this period where you're saying that things are tight, you are able to shell out 21 billion naira to build or to complete the VP school? Is this the time for that? I understand the importance of finishing a project, which was one of the justifications for it, but is this the time for it? At this time where people are suffering, or people are saying that they cannot afford to buy food, tomatoes are high, you are paying 90 billion naira for people to observe their personal religious obligations. How does it make sense? So when people see headlines like this, and then you come out to say that you cannot afford to pay 62,000 naira to the Nigerian worker, it beggars belief. So these are some of the critical questions we must be asking. Go and ask your state governor, if the states are not listed in the 10. How is he managing your state? What is happening? What is your debt profile? What is the IGR in your state? And what has the governor done to remedy that situation? When we talk about economic matters, it's not just at the federal level, state levels as well. Let's not even go into the local governments, because we don't even know if they exist currently in terms of the structure of federalism in Nigeria.
Well said, Arise Television. Like, you guys are the best. You guys always speak true to the power. My people, yes, it is high time for any governor that said that he cannot be able to pay this minimum wage to resign. Like, what is the need of him being a governor since you cannot pay your workers? Like, what is need, my people? I think it's high time for Nigerians to stand up and say that enough is enough, and start holding all these our leaders accountable, because we cannot continue like this. You cannot continue like this. At the end of the day now, when they are out from that office as a governor, you see EFCC pursuing them up and down, telling us how many billions they looted. And right now, they are complaining they don't have money. My people, that is it. I said, make I bring this update so that you can hear what Arise Television said concerning this matter. These governors coming out to tell us that they don't have money to pay workers. Like, this is so shameful, honestly. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section. And if today is your first time, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Yes, my people, I will see you guys in my next one. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye for now.